Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So this is the recording for the subject of organizational behavior, AAM1023. So now we are going to discuss about a topic of organizational culture. So these are among the learning outcomes or learning objectives. I hope that at the end of the class, we can transform all these objectives to be understandable. We can achieve all these objectives that can make you understand what is organizational culture. Alright, let us look into the overview of organizational culture. Organizational culture is an important concept in studying how organizations behave. Culture is defined as a common perception held by the members of the organization or a sense of shared meaning. So this system is characterized by several things, which is maybe I can list here. The characteristics of values, beliefs, and then underlying assumptions and so on, which serve several purposes. Okay, when we talk about the effects of culture on organizational outcomes, as you can see in Robbins and Coulter's textbook, alright, in Exhibit 16.2, so these are the most common frameworks which describes organizational cultures, whereby we can maybe understand organizational culture through the four types of the culture. So we have here the clan. The clan is a culture which based on human affiliation. Employees value attachment, collaboration, trust, and also support. The second type is the adhocracy. Adhocracy is a culture based on change. So in this adhocracy culture, employees value growth, variety, and then attention to detail, stimulation, and also autonomy. The third type is the market. It is a culture based on achievement. Employees value communication, they value competence and also competition. And the last type, we call it as the hierarchy culture, which is based on stability. So in this kind of culture, employees value communication, formalization, and also routine. Okay, this is a good question. Do organizations have uniform cultures? So most large organizations, they have both a dominant culture and also several different cultures, or we call it as subcultures. The dominant culture reflects the core values that are shared by the majority of employees in the organization. In the other hand, subcultures reflect common problems or maybe experiences shared by employees in the same department or location. And then when we talk about strong versus weak cultures, a strong culture is one in which the core values are intensely held and also shared by most of the workers. And then strong cultures, we have what we call as a great influence on the behavior of members and increased cohesiveness, which should result in lower employee turnover. How employees learn culture? So employees learn the organizational culture through a number of avenues. Employees can gain an understanding of culture maybe by hearing stories that present the past and also provide explanations for current practices. And then culture is also transmitted through employees through rituals, or we call it as repetitive sequences of activities. When the organization reinforce key values and provide insight into the culture. And then material symbols such as dress codes maybe, formal or informal kind of things, and then office style or office size or style, and also perks. Okay, for key employees can denote who is important in an organization. And then the next one is language. It is the other way to learn about organizational culture, as employees will express themselves in certain ways in indicating membership in the organization. Okay, how a culture begins. So cultures start from the very beginning of the organization with the founders. Founders will tend to hire and then keep employees who view things in a similar ways or similar fashion. They will also try to get employees to think about things the way they do, and then socialize them to their point of view and ways of doing things. So this is done so that the founder's behavior will become the behavior to model in order to succeed in the organization and to fit in. So how organizational cultures form can be explained through this exhibit 16.3. Okay, keeping a culture alive can be done by three main ways. The first is to find those who fit into the culture and then hire them. The second way is establish norms. Top management establish norms of behavior by how they act. And then finally, socialization into the culture assist new employees adapt to the way things are done. So this is the socialization model in exhibit 16.4, which involve few steps. You can read this by yourselves. It starts with pre-arrival, until we can get what we call as the three major outcomes for the organization. So I hope that you can read this by yourselves. So the socialization process involves the few steps in the previous exhibit. So I hope that you can read this and you can maybe look into the connectivity between each of the sub-processes. Okay, next is the functions of culture. Cultures take on distinct functions, So cultures define the boundary between one organization and also the others. So they also convey a sense of identity for the members of the organization. If the cultures are strong, they can facilitate a continuous commitment to something maybe larger than self-interest over an extended period of time. So cultures also help people know what to expect in the organization, and also can thereby enhance the stability of the social system in the organization. So culture can also serve as a sense making and also control mechanism for fitting employees into the organization. Okay, next. Cultures creates climate. A person who encounters a positive climate for performance, maybe, will think about doing a good job more often, and will believe others support his or her success. So climates can interact with one another in producing behavior, and then climate also influences the habits people adopt in the organization. So how organizational cultures have an impact on employee performance and also satisfaction is depicted through exhibit 16.6. Alright, you can see the sequence in the flow diagram. Okay, started with various observations and so on until the last point, okay, in the exhibit, alright, which are performance and also satisfaction level. Alright, and then when we talk about the ethical dimension, alright, an ethical culture reflects the true values of the organization and then shapes the ethical decision making of its members in the organization. And then when we talk about culture and sustainability, we need to know the concepts of sustainability development, sustainability management. Concepts of sustainable management have their origins in the environmental movement. So, processes that are in harmony with the natural environment are encouraged in the organization. Social sustainability practices address the ways social systems are affected. And then, in turn, how changing social systems may affect the organization as well. And then when we talk about culture and innovation, startup firms or startup organizations often have innovative cultures by definition, because they are usually small, they are usually agile, and also focused on solving problems in order to survive and also grow. And then when we talk about culture as a liability, we need to know culture can also be a kind of hindrance to an organization. A company can become institutionalized when people value the organization more than what they provide. When cultures are strong, they can become a barrier to change, as their values may not align with the values needed to embrace or to maybe facilitate the change. And then cultures that may pressure employees to conform can be a barrier to hiring, right? Developing and also promoting a diverse workforce. So coherence around negative and dysfunctional values in a corporation or in an organization can produce downward forces, which are equally powerful, but it's toxicated. Alright. Finally, if a merger or acquisition occurs in an organization, or maybe in the departments in an organization, one of the most difficult things to do is to merge the two cultures. So many mergers fail because of culture clashes. Alright, for ethical cultures, I hope that you can read this by yourself, okay, in our textbook. Alright. And when you read about ethical cultures, yes, several types of cultures are associated. For example, positive cultures, spiritual cultures, alright, and so on. Okay, now we go to the discussion about the global context of organizational culture. So we need to understand that organizational culture still exists within a local culture, and that we cannot ignore. So it is important that managers in any organization increase their ability to become more culturally sensitive through maybe active listening, and then by some adjustment in communication to the culture in which they are operating, and avoiding controversial topics in their discussions. For example, we are having our company to operate in any other countries. For example, in Arabic country, in one Arabic country, so we must make sure that we can adjust our communication to the culture. We need to actively listen to the differences shown by the workers at our organization in Arab country, so that we will avoid controversial topics which is not really supported by the culture of that particular country. So the management of ethical behavior is one area where national culture can wrap up against corporate culture. So companies must be so sensitive to differing standards related to culture. So that's all for this particular topic. For further information, you can always contact me, and we can discuss about each of the subtopics that I have taught to you through this particular topic, organizational culture. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum.